Welcome to Song is Born, where we turn conversations into songs. Our passion for creation is thrown against a blank canvas to bring our guests' inspirations to life.
What's going on, Jake? How you doing, man?
I'm doing.
Hey, Carrie. Hey, Bo.
What's up? Hey, what's up?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. Excited to be here.
Yeah. Welcome back, everybody who's tuning in for the third episode of A Song is Born. So our special guest today is our cousin, Carrie and I's cousin, Jake Smith. So Jake, how you been, man? What's new in your life these days?
Not too much new. I've been steadily going to school for like a year now. Bartending on the side. I've been reading a lot of books. So other than that, and focusing on that kind of stuff. It's pretty much it. Going to school. I'm going to school to be an occupational therapist. So we recently started getting into like the PEDS section of occupational therapy and how we intervene with that. That's like really exciting.
What's that?
So like PEDS is pediatrics, so it's kind of basically like any children with deficits.
Yeah, let's clear that up for the audience.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm sitting here it's like talking all this lingo. Basically, like occupational therapy is you can kind of relate it to physical therapy, but the only difference is with occupational therapy, the way we intervene and we treat a client is we treat them by things that they find interesting. So let's say like you guys find value in playing music. Let's say one of you guys got a car accident and had a traumatic brain injury and lost function in one of your hands, right? So my role would be to, after talking to you and establishing like a rapport with you, I'd find out that you guys enjoy music. So I'd figure out a way to, for Bo, I'd figure out a way to incorporate playing the drums into a treatment session. And then there's different ways I can do it, because you can't just automatically start playing the drumsticks, because those are smaller objects. So I would, grade it up by playing like with PVC pipes, something bigger, easier to hold, things like that. And then, for Carrie and Kyle, you guys, Kyle, you slap the bass, Carrie, you rip the guitar. So I'd figure out a way to kind of start at where your current level's at, and then incorporate that into the way I get you back to basically your highest level of performance through the things you guys find interesting. So that's kind of like the gist of it.
So you get to know the patient,
yeah,
and learn what they're into, and then you kind of utilize their pre-existing strengths, yeah, to kind of augment their weakness, to help them get through it more easily. That's awesome. I love that. I never heard of that before.
Yeah, it's
but it makes sense.
Yeah, it's cool, man, because it's like the reason I chose this is it's so much more holistic. Whereas PT can be very much do 2 or 3 sets of 10 with the curls or whatever it might be, But what's fun about this is, first thing, you never know what client you're going to walk into. You never know who you're going to have. So it's very it's something new every single day, and I think that's challenging and it seems fun. And then also, people are naturally going to be more motivated if they're doing something they enjoy doing. So you take
For
that,
sure.
yeah, and you get to see people grow doing the things that they enjoy. So like a good example is for one of my level 1 fieldwork sites, we went to this place called Kitty Up, and it's a hippotherapy place where it's just basically horseback riding for children with intellectual disabilities, or any disability really, but primarily intellectual disabilities like autism, Down syndrome, things like that. And they enjoy horseback riding. So you see these kids, and they do every single component of horseback riding. It's not just riding the horse. It's brushing the horses. It's painting the horses. It's walking the horses. It's all these different things that a kid, when they first walked into the barn, couldn't stay focused, couldn't walk around, couldn't, lift their arms in some cases. And just from having a horse there and interacting with the horse, you see them lift their arm up. You see them focus on the horse. You see, it's unbelievable. It's a life-changing experience. And just a little bit more backstory to that real quick. Aaron and Kyle, our cousin, Ryan had Down syndrome. So I've always had a passion for working with people that had disabilities, and the change you see in them, and you see the joy. I think anybody that's ever been around somebody that has, especially Down syndrome, this is where I had most of my experience. When you're around those kids and you see their smile and their hug and their love, man, there's nothing. That's what I love about it, is there's no There's no.
It's unconditional.
Yeah, it's unconditional. There's no second layer to it. There's nothing like that they're hiding. It's like
no ulterior motives. It's pure love.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So that's why I love it. So.
Oh man, I love hearing your stories. And we used to work together in the truck, and you would tell me the stories of all the stuff you're learning and the patients you get to work with, and yeah, man, that's super inspiring. I love that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So that could totally be an aspect of like helping others, giving back. You know, that's totally a theme for sure.
I love the like mind over matter focus of that recovery aspect, and you know, my dad actually had a bad accident years ago skiing. He broke his femur bone, crashed into a tree. Ooh. And the recovery for that is, you know, it's insane. And, you know, he had such a passion for skiing and, you know, he was so down after that happened. Yeah. Just that's just breaks you when you're not able to do what you love to do. And I don't really recall if he did any kind of physical therapy or anything like that. But I do remember him really getting into biking at that time, because that was an easy way for him to kind of recover. And he started on just like the stationary bikes, right? And then he kind of migrated towards going outside and going on long rides. And that slowly built him up. And he did that so much that he was able to get back out on the mountain much faster than anyone would have anticipated. And it was just using something he loved to kind of transition him over to that. And, you know, your ability and what you're focusing on, that's so cool to be able to like marry people's joy in life and say, okay, how do we bring them back and get them, you know, back on the horse or, you know, back on behind the kid or whatever. And, you know, that's just amazing.
It's one of the most significant phenomena in all of clinical science and medicine is the placebo effect, which basically means that your brain has sometimes just as much power to heal itself as the medication itself. And it's in every major study, right? So like it's obviously a thing that they compare everything to a control, which is the placebo. And that goes to show that, like you said, mind over matter, Bo, when you do something where you really can convince your mind and convince yourself that this is the right thing, this is how to heal, I'm feeling better, I'm getting better, I'm performing better, then you just simply do better. It's that simple. It's like
the craziest part
about magic in science.
Yeah, the craziest part, I'm glad you brought up the science part, Kyle, because, you know, one thing they really like preach to us while we're in school is everything you do needs to be intentional. You need to have some sort of research behind it before you do something, because then what are you really doing, you know? And not only is the mind over matter a component, but another component is they're not even aware that they're being treated, you know? So again, if Bo, you're playing the drums, you know what I mean? That's not doing 10 reps or 3 sets of 10 reps of curls.
Yeah, it's not handing me a dumbbell and saying, yeah, just do this for 5 minutes and, you know, let's see.
So if I was to come in and, you know, if I have good energy, you know, I'm motivating, and I'm like, hey, Bo, let's play the drums, man. Like, I know you like playing the drums. Let's play the drums for a little bit. You're not even aware. And then you get into this flow state of you just, you know, remembering a song you used to play or a song that you love, and you're playing the drums, you know, wherever it is, on your legs or on, you know, pads or whatever it is. And then you're not even aware, because you get into this flow state, you get lost in the treatment. And then you're not even aware that I'm treating you, you know? And then you might even get to a point where you're like, okay, I don't want to do this. You know, I'm starting to hurt. Let's do something else. And then from talking to you prior, I identified you like whatever, you know, let's say you like playing football, just for example. I'll be like, oh, you know, Bo, you said the other day that you like playing football, man. You want to go throw the football? You'd be like, yeah. I'm like, well, I don't have a football, but I have this little foam ball, you know, just to make it a little bit easier. And then again, you know, you get lost into that flow state, and you're not even aware that you're making this progress until when I do another assessment of you, you know, whatever it is, 4 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now, and your progress has just gone up exponentially. Then you're like, oh, wow, like that's why I love this so much, is especially with kids, you know, that's the field I want to go into hopefully one day is, you know, with kids, you can't tell a kid to be like, all right, let's do 10 push-ups to work on your strength. You have to be creative. Like, oh, the kid likes Spider-Man. All right, we're going to be Spider-Man today. We're going to jump from this wall. When we get to that wall, we got to crouch down because Venom's coming. And then we got to push up to get out of the way of, you know, whatever it is. And man, that's so fun. You know what I mean? Like you can see, I get excited just talking about it. I can talk about it for forever, but that's the best part.
It's funny because that raises the question, why are adults treated differently? Because we all relate to that. We're over here smiling, like joking about playing a Spider-Man game,
Well, I
right?
think-
But we would never do that because we're adults, because we're supposed to be mature and all these things. But we can play with kids. It's like work versus play. Like when you're an adult and you need rehab, it's like work. It's a chore. You just need to man up, deal with it, be strong. But then if you're a kid, like we have fun with it, and it's actually enjoyable. It's enjoyable for the therapist, and it's enjoyable for the patient. Why can't it be like that with us?
Well, that's where occupational therapists come in. Is to do that with adults.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's also a struggle with some of these kids. It's sensory overload. Like when you and I, we see a random person in the crowd, and we see the face, and then it's gone. We don't remember it, but they take in every information. All of a sudden, they know the eye color. Like it's just instantly memorized, and it's just sensory overload to the point where they can't focus because everything's coming in at the same speed, and it's just like a traffic jam. And it's super overwhelming for them. And I have a question, like how much of your treatments have to be like either continued? Like what's the residual on some of these treatments? Is it like when you work out and then you stop, you kind of lose the muscle? Do you have to just constantly keep working at it? Or do they develop these tools and it kind of sticks with them over time?
So it just kind of obviously is going to depend on the diagnosis, and the person that you're dealing with, their motivation levels, like their internal motivation, right? Those are all huge factors. So some people, there are some people that don't go to the doctor, and those people that don't go to the doctor that don't want to participate in therapy, they're probably not going to have the long-term benefits from it. However, if you treat correctly, with somebody that is, committed to therapy and to getting better, they'll stay forever because you're targeting very specific, and I'm giving general examples, but everything you're doing is intentional, so another example would be like a person that has Parkinson's, and you might be like, oh, Miss Mary, we're going to play musical chairs today. Or I know you like to dance, Miss Mary, so let's do the salsa. But Miss Mary, I need you to walk over here to me first, but she's wheelchair bound. But Miss Mary, you got to come over here to dance today, to dance with your friends. And just that walking, that's a treatment. And then you're going to do a little dance treatment. You know what I mean? All right, Miss Mary, we got to go back to the bathroom to wash our hands because it's COVID and we got to make sure we keep our hands clean. And I know I'm talking in this voice. It might seem like it's not appropriate, but for a person with Parkinson's, that might be appropriate depending on their cognitive ability, And Carrie, again, like you brought up an awesome point too, man. Like, so I'm giving kind of like similar ends of the spectrum, whereas Carrie gave it an opposite approach where you might have a kid who is sensory avoiding, right? He wants to avoid those senses because everything like exactly what you said, whether he's like visually sensory avoiding, auditorily, it just really depends. But with those kids, it might not be appropriate to be like, all right, let's jump around and play Spider-Man because they don't want to do that. It might just be, all right, let's sit down and read, or let's sit down and play Spider-Man, or write. So you just have to. It just really depends, man. There's so many variables that go into it. But that's another reason I love it so much, is because it's something new every single day. You're constantly challenged to come up with ideas and try to be creative, which is something that I've always kind of struggled with. So it's kind of made me really start to work out that creativity muscle, that I wouldn't say that I have naturally. So yeah, all of these things, man, it just depends. But if you do to bring it back to your question, Carrie, if you do the therapy appropriately and the client's receptive to it, 100% long-term effects.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's like you're not just installing a behavioral overlay, you're actually recoding and retraining the brain. And it's something that can last them the rest of their life. So that's such a huge effect for, the effort that you're putting into it. It can change someone's life, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, with that, it's neuroplasticity all day. A lot of the clients, that's the goal. They can't regulate their senses appropriately. So what we have to do is kind of train their brain to regulate their senses a different way, or give them tools to regulate their senses prior to going to school for a kid, for example, But yeah, a lot of it is that neuroplasticity and using that to our advantage. It's hard, and sometimes it takes a long time. But if you do it the right way, man, it's the results you see with a kid or even an adult. I talk about kids a lot because I love kids. But even when you see, because we were able to go to another site that had some older people in their 60s, 70s with intellectual disabilities. And man, seeing this like older lady and older men that got happy about like just getting up and going for a walk around a building. And like, something so simple, like, oh, we're gonna go collect all these things to do our knitting group today. We need you to walk around to collect all the things. Like, it's crazy. So
yeah, just a small sense of purpose is all they need.
Yeah,
sometimes.
exactly.
Yeah, man, especially nowadays, we need more people like you that are really willing to put an effort into like connecting, connecting with the patient and trying to bring not only like recovery and results, but also bring them happiness, because if they're in a very dark time, very sad time, and even if it's not an injury, if it's like you said, like intellectual disability, or if they're in a nursing home, like here I see it too, like people that are in nursing homes with lockdowns, and it causes people to be like, they're still getting their help, but they're not getting like that social aspect of things, which I believe very, very strongly that your happiness and your social life and your just overall mental well-being totally contributes to your willingness to work hard towards your physical, recovery. Like if you're not in the right state of mind, you don't care. If you're not happy, it doesn't matter. So like that's so important, and I my hats off to you, man. I love that. I know I've heard you tell the stories so many times. You're clearly so passionate about it. And how many classes do you have left? Like 2 or 3, and then you'll
I've
be unemployed looking for a job.
Yeah. I'll be unemployed in field work. No, I have like 2.5 classes left, and then I have 2 months of field work, and then I'll be hopefully getting a job pretty quickly. I've already been offered jobs at my level 1 fieldwork sites, so I might revisit those, but I'm hoping to get a like a more traditional OTA type of job. So we'll see where it goes.
Right. Have you got to deal with patients like in a relatively long-term sort of scenario where like you spent a lot of time with them and got to see some of the recovery, or do you generally just work with them for a small period of time for that particular lesson and then you're on your way? So you must, if that's not the case, then you must be excited to get that experience, to meet people and get to know them.
Yeah. So just as students, the only real exposure we've had the longest term has been like a week. But again, just another quick story. This kid, Zach, that I was working with at this other facility that we were at, he was nonverbal, so he's not talking. He had intellectual disabilities. He had spasticity, which is like high muscle tone. So you see like people have strokes with their arms like this. He had that, not severe. So he was more kind of just like in this position. So a lot of stuff going on there, and he was not willing to cooperate with anybody. But just with the week that I was able to work with him, me and him had this connection, it was really strange. But the connection we had to see him going from the first day, being nonverbal, grabbing a teacher by her shirt and throwing her on he's a big kid. He's like 6'5", like big, strong kid.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was screaming, grabbed her by the shirt, threw her on the ground. And then for whatever reason, I was just like, okay, I need to go help this kid. You know what I mean? Like I just was drawn to that, like hectic scenarios. It was weird, but to see going from that to the end of the week, he's a lot more calm. He's communicating with me, who to him, he's a stranger. So kind of going what you were saying, Carrie, it's a lot of new information. He might, typically a kid would avoid that. But to see just in that week's time period, the difference that from the beginning of the week to the end of the week, that's the longest period of time though, is a week. But once I get to level 2 field work, I'll be working with people for like months at a time.
Would you say,
Kyle, that kind of what along the lines of what I was thinking as Jake was talking is like I just can imagine like some of the most difficult situations to deal with, where people have not only just long term but almost permanent, whether it's amputees or things like that, where they have to live with that the rest of their life. And for someone like Jake, I mean that's got to be so hard to break through that, and it takes months and months just to get even a small level of improvement. And again, it really again, not referring to any data or anything like that, but I have to imagine a lot of that is the mind and overcoming that mental wall that everyone will put up when they have to deal with such a daunting task of overcoming that. So to have people like you that are helping those individuals with essentially life altering difficulties and challenges, like that's just super amazing.
I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I've got this friend who his name is Alex, and he's a skydiver now. He served in the military, and he was the victim of an IED, improvised explosive device. Yeah, that's what it is. And he became wheelchair bound. He had spinal damage and things like that. I didn't know him before that, but I only met him later on when he was in the wheelchair. And he must have had, obviously, a very good support system and very good therapist, because he's actually he's really fit. He's got big arms. Like, he works out clearly. He's very healthy, very nice guy. But he decided one day he wanted to become a skydiver. But he's in a wheelchair, and he couldn't move his legs. He can feel them, but he can't move. So he came to us at Tony Suits to build him a suit that would stabilize and put his legs in the correct position using airflow, because that's all we had. We couldn't use pneumatics because pneumatics are stiff and hard, and on a bad landing, it was the simplest, most basic way to get his legs in that proper position of that arch. So we built him that suit, and that's one of the most inspirational stories or experiences I've ever had in my life, was contributing. And he actually just made a post the other day, and it felt so good because he's still jumping. He finally got his license to skydive. He's cleared for solo status, and I watch him with his videos all the time, him just jumping out of planes, and he's in a wheelchair, but he went up against the odds, and he was, persistent, and he was determined. And I think part of that came from obviously his military background and his personality, but also I think some of that must have come from therapy. He must have had those people tell him, look, you're going to be in a wheelchair for a while or for the rest of your life, but it's up to you to go out there and do the things that still make you happy. And man, he's so strong, and he's so inspirational. He's a skydiver. That's he's probably better than me at this point now, because I'm so on current.
Do you think there's a stigma with mental health these days, or do you think we're becoming more accepting?
I think overall we're becoming more accepting. I mean, I think there's some bias still out there, specifically when it comes. This might get us in trouble, but with men, typically men aren't allowed to have. They're more stigmatized. It seems like there's some evidence to support that. I listened to an audiobook here recently where it was talking about. They did this experiment basically where there was a man that was walking down the street, and they faked a mugging on the man, and there was in a crowd of people, and nobody rushed to help him. Versus another scenario where there was a woman, and then everybody went to help her, and both were getting. It wasn't like one was. More competent, the scenario played out the exact same way. But I definitely think we're becoming more accepting because mental health, especially, I think we all can agree, nowadays, mental health is, like Kyle kind of said earlier, that's one of the foundations. If you're not right mentally, you're not gonna be able to perform at anything. So I think we're becoming more understanding, and we're starting to learn a lot more too, which I think is important, about what all goes into mental health. It's not only where in the past it was, Jake just feels sorry for himself. Jake just feels like he had a hard life or whatever it is. It's not just that. I might have hormones in my brain that are being released that are causing me to feel this way. And I think understanding that, I think the treatment isn't necessarily where it should be, because a lot of the treatment involves blocking certain receptors instead of maybe increasing certain receptors or creating those different neural pathways. So I think the treatment for mental health disorders, certain ones, not all of them, but I think that has a long way to go still. But I think just the overall perception of mental health is starting to change a lot, because again, that's the foundation of it all. I think COVID really exposed how important mental health is, and like Kyle said again, social participation, how important that is, just to be a human. To be a human, we need to talk to people. We need to see people's faces. We need to touch people. We need all these different things that require another person. That's why when somebody is getting the worst punishment of all time, they're getting put in solitary confinement for the rest of their life. You know what I mean? That's why they do that, because that's what makes people go crazy. It's not having that. So yeah, there are still stigmas, but I think it's getting better.
Not to change the subject too much, but I read an article. It actually popped up a couple of times in my news feed and on Reddit and things I'm interested in, about how they've recently discovered that Epstein-Barr virus might actually contribute to or cause multiple sclerosis. Mm-hmm. And my mom, Carrie and I's mom, she's in a nursing home, and her boyfriend, Tony, has MS. And that made me think, man, like, what if that was just that simple? Like, maybe it took just a vaccine or something early treatment, like where we could have a test and detect if you've had the virus, and then just like nip it in the bud ahead of time. And then like people wouldn't be wheelchair bound. It's like the polio, how revolutionizing revolutionary polio vaccine was. You know. So
Jake,
do you work with a lot of people with MS or?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we work with a good amount of people. I haven't really had much exposure to people with MS.
Yeah.
But I wanted to hit on a point you kind of touched on about the mind over matter thing. There's also a stigma against people that have disabilities as they're helpless, and that's like the furthest thing from the truth every exposure I've had. The people that have disabilities, they are the most hardworking, for the most part, the most motivated, the most driven people you'll ever meet. You know, that's what's crazy is they talk about it, like kind of address it every now and then in school, and you know, somebody in the class will be like, "Oh, I can't do this. I had this going on," and they're like, "Look, there's a kid out there that doesn't have a hand, that's graduating with a doctor degree and whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it's unbelievable how motivated and how much that people with disabilities can persevere. That's one of the most inspirational things for me, because it kind of also helps keep myself in check, because no matter what I have going on, like my worst day, man, it could still be a lot worse, and it's nice to have that perspective, whenever. And that's one of the reasons I enjoy working with these people, is because it just, not only do I get all these rewarding things and get to, help people, help them reach their goals and whatnot, but also it just reminds me, like, man, like, you live a pretty good life, you don't have really much to complain about. And look at all the great things you get to do. You know what I mean? Like, so touch on that real quick. Go ahead, Kerry.
Yeah. I mean, just going back about a year and a half, you were working a solid job. You had a good career, making good money. And then you just kind of uprooted and stripped everything down. You completely changed your lifestyle to be able to go to school. Was there just a light switch that went off, or was it something that kind of ate away at you to make that kind of decision? Because, I mean, you really have sacrificed a lot personally just to put yourself into the educational program that you're on, to go and take that path, which, I mean, I commend you for. You've definitely made some hard decisions, but was it just an aha moment that happened, or was it something that kind of snuck up on you, and how did that go for you?
It would have been really cool if it was an aha moment. It was not that, though. It was working at this job for 9 years and realized how much I hated it. And something I've kind of been reflecting on, here recently. I feel like everybody at some point feels like that they have more to offer the world than they're currently giving, and I've always felt like that. Now, whether that's just me being selfish, thinking more of myself than I am, whatever it might be, I feel like I have more to give to the world than being a operations manager or supervisor in a warehouse. Not that those jobs aren't important. Like, we have to have those jobs to function as a society. I'm very aware of this, but I feel like I've always been somebody that loves learning, first off. Secondly, loves people. I love talking to people. I'll talk to people all day. I'm sure you're getting a little bit of it right now, me going on rants. But I felt like I have something more to give to people, right? So over the course of working there for however long, I went through like phases where I'd be good for 6 months, and then I'm like, man, I hate this. I need to do something more. I have more to give to people, to give to this world, And eventually it got to a point where I just got into the leadership at the place I was working at started to change, and it becoming one of the reasons I love this company when I started was it was always about the people. I was a supervisor, but I was a part of the team. We all worked together. We all were trying to get done. We had the same goals. We were friends. I was friends with a lot of the guys and girls, but at some point within the last 2 years I was there, that wasn't the case. It was very like data driven. We got to meet our goals, no matter what the cost. And that's when I started like seeing other leaders that I worked with kind of conform to that, and I just didn't agree. I never agreed with it. And I had met the owner of the company. I'd met his son. who is the future owner, and I knew these guys pretty well. I'd been to numerous like seminars, like leadership seminars and different things that they sent me to, and had like very real conversations with these guys. And I just never agreed with the way that that my terminal that I was working at, what they were starting to do. It got to a point where they just kept doing it, and then I would stick up for the people that are my team. We're on the team together with the same goals, so I'd stick up for them. And then it turned into, oh, Jake's getting emotional, Jake's getting frustrated, Jake's getting heated, and I'm just like, I'm not getting heated, man. I'm just not willing to treat the people that I work with every single day, that I spend more time with than I do my family. I'm not willing to treat them like crap to make sure we close out 1 minute earlier or whatever it is, It was a series of different things kind of over like a 5-year time span. But it got to a point where it just got so bad where I just realized enough was enough. And I was, 27 at the time, or 26 at the time ish. And I don't have kids. I'm married. I don't really have anything tying me to that job. So I was like, look, man, bold people make hard decisions, and I was tired of being a coward, to be honest with you. I was tired of being a guy that's just like, okay, well, I'm making good money, but I'm going to live this unfulfilling life for the rest of my life. In my opinion, again, we need these jobs. I don't want to try to say these jobs are terrible. That's just how I felt. So yeah, I just got to a point where I was like, all right, well, you just got to make a hard decision or live with it for the rest of your life, because you're almost 30. You might have a kid. You might end up getting, all these things were kind of coming up. I think that 30-year mark really hits a point in somebody's life where it's like, all right, you're not in your 20s anymore. You're in that age group now. So I was getting close to that. So it just kind of made me realize that, man, it's now or never. And it was now. So did all that and I haven't looked back since, man. It's been awesome.
So I'm picking up on just having a calling, a sense of purpose, taking that bold decision. What else are you guys picking up on?
Just kind of overcoming like just unsurmountable challenges in anyone's life, whether that's mental illness or physical. I mean, again, it comes back to the mind and being able to break through those barriers. And that's kind of the general theme that I'm sensing from my end.
My excuse me, the sense that I'm getting is that you had this job that was paying really good for a 26-year-old guy, right? Like some people are still in college, like, in the medical field are still in college. And you gave up a lot. You gave up a fancy paycheck and bonuses. I mean, granted, you weren't happy and you were working stupid hours and not entirely happy with some of the people you were working with. But a lot of people put up with that because of the paycheck. Mm-hmm. And you sacrificed that financial security and you put yourself in a position to not know where that next meal is going to come from. How am I going to pay rent? How am I going to have gas to even get to school? But you gave that up, that security, that comfort zone, to put yourself out there to learn about a field where you would help people, and people that you could almost argue like the people of the world that need the help the most are those who are hurt or challenged mentally or physically. And man, the world needs more people like you. And my hat's off to you again on that there. So I guess if I had to sum it up into a word, I would probably say selfless or sacrifice almost. Even.
I like it.
And there's like, all of this is very inspirational, but there's an underlying darkness that I think is always there, no matter who you are, that you have to kind of break through. And sometimes you need that support to do that. Sometimes you're able to kind of summon it from within. But, whether it's COVID bringing you into this siloed lifestyle that you're just all of a sudden now you can't reach out and be with family, friends, and so on, or it's some incident that happened in your life, or it's something you're born with and you have to learn how to deal with. There's this darkness that, we all kind of try to overcome in our own ways. And Jake, in a way, finding your true passion and and realizing where you wanted to take the rest of your life, like that's breaking through that darkness for yourself and seeing a little bit, a glimpse of that light in your own family too, and seeing how you can help others like that. I think that's really, really special.
I agree. And like the like he was talking about earlier, where they had the woman, where they staged the mugging, and the man, and the underlying issue with that is not that he's a man or a woman, but there's like an assumed strength in a man that people aren't going to assume need help. And that's a problem with, in any gender, but some people just have a thick skin, and then people just assume you're going to bounce back. But sometimes there's just things that just eat away at you. And, sometimes, as a man, I've never been to therapy, and I would have that stigma to like, do I really need it? Am I weak mentally to where I would need, you know what I mean? Like there's
yeah, absolutely.
There's that assumption that I should just be stronger mentally or stronger physically. And it's just something that's assumed in our society, but we need to break those walls down too, and be more accepting of that.
Absolutely.
Not only that, just to kind of finish your thought as well. Not only is that assuming that a man is strong, it's also assuming a woman is weak, which is equally as bad.
Exactly.
And that's what I was kind of getting at, is the stigmas on both ends, that they're assuming that a woman is weak and that a man is strong. And there's you have both ends of the spectrum, and you have everybody in between, So yeah, I just wanted to finish that thought as well, because there is also that stigma. So
besides the work that you're doing now, what else has inspired you lately? What else is on your mind these days?
A lot of the stuff recently I've been reading a lot of books on like psychedelic therapy, like ways that scientists have been kind of getting back into stigmas. Psychedelic therapy was heavily researched in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s before they put the war on drugs. And just in the past, 10, 15 years-ish, they're starting to open that door back up for the potentials with, specifically the ones I really find super interesting is MDMA and psilocybin. The therapeutic use, especially with those like depression, anxiety, PTSD, those type of disorders. And it's so people assume, not knowing or looking at the research, that people are just taking, psilocybin or mushrooms, for if somebody doesn't know that, taking psilocybin and then just having this breakthrough experience. But that's not what the research is. The research is psilocybin or MDMA guided therapy. And what it allows people to do is open up in a way that they might have never opened up before. So, Carrie, like you were saying, you might have thoughts, and I have these thoughts as well of, oh, I'm a man, and am I weak for needing to go talk to somebody about my problems or the issues that I have going on right now? It's almost like that breaks that wall of those inhibitions you might have to open up to a therapist or, to a loved one, your wife, your kids, it's every situation is different, but I've really been doing a lot of reading on the ways they're using these specifically these two substances. They're doing other ones as well, but these two fascinate me for the high therapeutic value. But the potential is also, that's where I'm interested in, is where does this go? Because right now they're doing level 2 randomized controlled trials with MDMA. They're about to be into level 3. And level 1 psilocybin guided therapy, and they're about to get okayed for level 2, level 3 studies. And like, where does this go? Because like, are we gonna have like psilocybin centers and MDMA centers where people go have these breakthrough experiences that change their lives forever, change their relationships forever, change the way they view the world forever? Just from the read it.
We'll find out.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll find out soon, because I think Oregon just legalized therapeutic use.
Yep.
If you're 21 and older, therapeutic, you just go to a place like a methadone clinic or something of that nature, and you can just go and take psilocybin therapy for addiction. I don't even think that it's even prescribed, like what ailments you have to have. I'm pretty sure you could just go there and take magic mushrooms.
Yeah, it's basically just a guided experience, and
Yeah.
a lot of the research, there's a lot of similar experiences and similar ideas and themes that people come out with. It's one, we need to take better care of our world, which I think we all can agree is super important and relevant right now. Two, we need to be more loving and caring to others. What a perfect time for that theme to come up. And it seems like another one is be more forgiving, loving, caring, those kind of similar attributes that kind of all go into, those relationship and just overall just being a better person. So, I've had like mini thought experiments of, what happens if everybody in the world takes psilocybin or MDMA, like what happens? Like how does society change, And it's
somebody gets rich.
yeah, right. Yeah.
Really, really rich.
Pfizer gets extra rich now because they're gonna have a way to put it in the capsule.
Maybe they should have put psilocybin on the list under the emergency use authorization.
Well,
just gas crowds with psilocybin and everybody just chills out.
Just chills out. Yeah, everybody just laying on the
Instead
ground
of
looking
mustard
at the
gas.
stars.
Yeah, mushroom gas. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's and now so those two are the psychedelic aspects, but there's also cannabis, which has been legalized across the country, and there's been identified cannabinoids that are in which are components of cannabis or chemicals in cannabis that can effectively treat COVID. So, but again, that research is getting pushed down and ignored because there are these big businesses, big companies that are making so much money, so it's lucrative for them to sell their vaccine or and I know vaccines have their place, like don't get me wrong, but there might be other ways because vaccines is a way to prevent, where the cannabinoids they identified is a way to treat. So like after you have COVID, to treat it instead of getting to a point where you go to the hospital, or to a point where you get to go to the hospital, get put on a ventilator, and then you die. You avoid that if you can treat it, because the vaccine is just a preventative measure, and it's not showing a lot of efficacy. So,
I think we're as a society are still recovering from the stigma that we placed on, like in the early 1900s was the reefer madness era. And then later on in like the 70s with the counterculture and the peace movement they put the same stigma on the psychedelics, which pretty much took them off the plate.
Yep.
Like that was not an option anymore. No one could research it. No one could do anything to study it. And I think it was Dr. Carl Hart who said that, or maybe it was Hamilton Morris. I can't remember. I mix up all my Joe Rogan drug related episodes. But he said that it's really easy to make something illegal, but it takes so much effort and time to undo that.
Yep.
And so that we need to, before we make something legal, we need to create a precedent that makes it, we need to just do our research. We need to be sure that when we ban something, that it's absolutely necessary. Like asbestos.
Yeah.
That was absolutely necessary. We know that now. Yeah. It had no benefit and it harmed
Agent
people.
Orange.
But Agent Orange,
Radium.
the 2,4-D and the T4-5 and all that, those ingredients are terrible. Yeah, people used to make wristwatches and they used to paint their teeth with radium to make them glow. Well, obviously, they're not around to tell us how that went. But we learn a lot. And before we start just like blanketly laying over these bans and prohibitions, it's really important that we know that we're doing this for the right reason, because obviously cannabis has proven to be quite beneficial for many ailments. We're learning that MDMA and the classic psychedelics abroad, essentially, in almost all of the classic psychedelics in some way, shape, or form, are proving to have some benefit. And I can't help but think, like, whenever I'd watched, like when I was a kid, I'd watch the DARE commercials or the Just Say No commercials from the Reagan administration, which apparently is still around now. They would just tell you remember the commercial of the girl who smoked weed and like melted into her couch and she became like this two-dimensional, like ribbon, like flat piece of paper human. And I'm just like, man, like that propaganda told us, it scared me. I didn't want to ever smoke pot. Well, they would do that with everything. And now we're starting to learn that there's actually benefits to these things. And instead of just like banning them, maybe we should like start really opening up and being more open about those things.
Well,
because they're proving to be pretty powerful.
Well, I think they are powerful, and I think that's one of the primary reasons that they were banned. They were powerful in changing people's consciousness. It created free thinkers. Yeah. It created more creative people. And And
look at Silicon Valley.
Exactly.
Almost all of Silicon Valley runs on psychedelics or LSD, psilocybin. They almost all microdose, and they're open about it. CEOs even in some cases.
And again, kind of referring back to science and facts. I mean, look at other countries. What is it? Portugal that basically legalized essentially everything. But they also focus on mental health, and they have like safe places for people to go and use if they need to, or they're trying to come off and trying to help them, transition to better alternatives or healthier alternatives and so on. And overall, I think, they have a pretty good mental health outcome across the country, as well as fewer deaths and so on from those drugs and what even some of the more hardcore drugs that we'll never see legalized for some time here. But and I'm not saying that we necessarily should do that, but at least look at the facts, look at the science behind it, and say, okay, well, how do we do this in a smart, intelligent way where we can, use that data and apply it effectively with thinking rather than irrational emotional reactions, which again, it comes back to the finger pointing society that we basically have become, where, if there's a problem, we need to point our finger at a single, villain, whether that's pot or whatever. And that's an oversimplification of it for sure, but it's definitely an easier way to come to a conclusion than to say, oh, well, it's a little bit more complicated than just that.
I also think it's important to stress that you, just like everything else, like politics and especially these days, everyone is on such like this left and right side, where it's like everyone is all pro drugs or everyone is either all against drugs. But I think it's very important to stress the fact that these drugs are very powerful, but they can also be very harmful if you don't know what you're doing and you're not under the right supervision. So I don't want anyone to think that you can just go out and just pop a couple mushrooms and just have a great time, because you can have a really bad time.
You mean microdosing black tar heroin's not a good idea?
Ask Dr. Carl Hart. But I lost my train of thought there for a second. But I guess what I'm just saying is that, like, this is what it was, is that the FDA is in a unique position right now with the psilocybin experiments, or the studies, rather, not experiments, that this is the first time they've ever been faced with a drug that's being attempted to be approved for use while it's a drug and a therapy combined together. And there's no precedent for this. So it's taking a long time, because normally, like, you get a pharmaceutical company say, we have this, this antiviral, which is like molnupiravir right now, like this, it's the talk of the town right now. But it's just a drug that they tested on people with an ailment. But we've never done it where the FDA has to prove a therapy alongside a drug. And so there's going to be quite a bit of red tape, because there's no legal precedent for it.
And I'm glad that they're taking a long time. I want them to take every precaution. I want them to take every single thing.
Take as long as you need.
Take as long as you need, because I'm a firm believer that at the end of the day, like, whatever the results are, well, they'll be true, because they've done every check. They've checked everything. They've done all the precautions. They've looked at every scenario, and whatever happens, which I believe will be eventually therapeutic legalization or medical legalization, it's going to be a good thing for everybody, right? But first, we need to have the infrastructure in place, kind of like what you guys were talking about. You can't just legalize all drugs. You legalize all drugs, it's going to be mayhem, right? You put the infrastructure in place to have places that people can go to come off, heroin, to come off whatever, alcohol. Alcohol is huge. People that are addicted to alcohol, if you quit alcohol, you will die immediately. You will die within, 24 to 48 hours.
It's the worst.
It is the
withdrawal.
worst. It's the worst withdrawal. You will die. And without these places to go to either have your therapeutic session or even just to get clean needles. You know what I mean? Like, it's so simple that going and getting clean needles, or getting pure heroin, somebody that is still addicted and can't come off, getting pure heroin instead of something that's cut with fentanyl, that as a society, that'll make a society better, because you give them the tools to have, to not have a higher risk of death, and then you slowly ease your way into, okay, well, maybe you should consider coming and staying at the center for a night, or whatever it might be, you use that as your doorway in. They're getting something pure instead of some street stuff that's cut or street. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the thing was marijuana that was smuggled over in a car and it was soaked in gasoline. Like things like that. But having that infrastructure is so important prior to legalization. That kind of goes hand in hand with how in depth these studies are. That they're doing everything the right way, and the results, the outcome will be a positive one if they continue down this path.
So, I think that
I was going to say, how are we going to bring this home and wrap this into a song concept?
Well, I better wrap up bring out the techno sounds, the EDM sounds.
So, it sounds like we need to write a song to save the world now. Get into
Sorry, guys.
Tenacious D territory.
Yeah.
Well, that's the fun of this podcast, is that sometimes we don't know what's going to happen. Well, every time we don't know what's going to happen. Actually, I was having a conversation with Carrie today, and he almost was like, yeah, Jake did. Oh, wait, never mind. Because like they live by each other, so they might talk a lot, and they might come up with what's going to be on the podcast. What are we going to talk about? And he actually wouldn't tell me what it was. And I was like, no, that's okay. I don't want to know, because I want it all to come fresh. I want it to be organic. And, we don't know what we're going to do. And that's the challenge, but that's also the fun and the honesty of it all, is that this isn't like fabricated. This isn't contrived. It's 100% organically, like real, like what you see. Like part 1 of the podcast, we don't know what we're doing. Part 2, we still don't know what we're doing, but we came up with something.
So, Jake, you're our first guest that's not in music. You're not a musician. You're not a songwriter, but obviously you have an affinity for music. What is some genres? What's some music that really inspires you, and what's something that you feel would fit with such a powerful message that we've been talking about?
So I love all music besides country. I think most of us can agree on that. But I love all music for the same reasons that I'm fascinated with the things we were just talking about, because music has the ability to change your consciousness. When you're sad, music can make you happy. When you're happy, music can make you sad. When you're feeling tired, it can make you energetic. That's one of the beautiful things about music, and certain songs, like the last song you guys had, it's one of my favorite songs. And when I first was sitting there listening to it, like I started to tear up and I got chills, like music has that ability, and it does that for everybody. And that's the beautiful thing about music. But to tie back to like our conversation, we kind of ended talking about the therapeutic use of psychedelics. And a lot of it was about love and care and all these different kind of things that go into being a therapist, and, reasons I might have gotten into this field. I think it'd be really cool if you guys did some sort of like Jimmy Hendrix kind of sound, because it was during the era of oppression, and society wasn't in a stable place, and he was one of the first people, from my knowledge, I could be wrong, from my knowledge, he was one of the first people that really was being creative and touching people in ways that they had never been touched before, and playing music that nobody had ever heard before. And I think that's something we need right now. I think it'd be appropriate for kind of the general theme we're talking about, is helping people achieve their goals, touching people in ways to make them better, and kind of all those themes. And then we kind of finish on psychedelics, which is super appropriate, obviously. But
I love this concept, because here's a guy that died young, had a drug overdose. He had his own struggles, and was very open about that in his music. But also, he was he was also a soldier. He served in the military, but he was so impactful. Like, he's still a legend in the guitar world, in the music world. We still talk about him to this day, and obviously a huge African-American figure in our history that we still pay homage to. And I love the opportunity to bring some of his inspiration into this song.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it too, because it's not far outside of our wheelhouse, but it's also not necessarily in our comfort zone. Like, we have to change a lot, on the drums, on the guitar, like, to make that sound. A lot of it's recording
techniques. Like, if we have the capability to make the sound, but we have to be, how do you say it? We have to, I'm trying to think of the word. we have to hold back on our recording techniques. You know, like we have all this amazing gear that we can use to make modern recordings, but we need to take some mics off the drums. We need to do less with the guitar, less processing, less mixing and mastering, like to get this raw, uncut sound that they captured, back in those days. There wasn't these huge studios where you did everything 5 times to nail the part. I mean, you played it live and you played together as a band. There's no click, there's no auto tune, so.
And every time you screw up, it costs money.
It did.
And so, and before I got on, Carrie was mentioning that you were interested in like a Hendrix style song. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna check out some. I haven't recently listened to Hendrix, so I was like, I'm gonna put some of that on and check it out. And I'm listening to a couple of songs. I'm like, man, I'm focusing as a drummer. I'm focusing on the drums and listening to like, stylistic stuff. The jazz, like rock mixture, which is just phenomenal. Like they set the tone for a lot of, current day music. And I'm like, man, like I really hear some of Chad Smith in here. And I go and Google Chad Smith's like influences from a drumming perspective. And of course, Mitch Mitchell is one of the top ones that influence his drumming. And I love Chad Smith. So, it's so cool to kind of trace back, some of your favorite musicians and their influences and kind of see that historic growth and evolution in music.
It's kind of like it's like a sort of musical ancestry.com.
Yeah.
You can like find the heritage of the sounds and the styles going way back, man, and like, I think it's very important to like, I didn't grow up on Jimi Hendrix. I grew up on 80s rock, but I've always known about him, but I haven't been exposed to Jimi Hendrix's music a whole bunch. And to be honest, I'm a bit ignorant of it. So in the next coming days, I'm certainly going to not be that anymore.
As a guitar player, you can't avoid Jimi Hendrix. So, I mean, obviously, I'm very familiar with his work. I did a report on him in high school as one of my idols, I guess, for guitar. So I'm definitely excited about this one.
I'm pumped. I can't wait.
He was like one of those first like bands I remember listening to that was like Rush, and then somehow I don't remember how your guys' dad exposed me to
Rush.
Neil Peart.
Yep.
Yeah, to Rush. So I freaking became obsessed with them. But for somehow I got exposed to Jimi Hendrix, man. And thinking back, like those were 2 of the bands, but Jimi Hendrix, it's they say like it hits differently. It hits me right in the center, man, right where it all is, And it's just this like very primal feeling. And like you said, raw, it has that raw component to it. And that's why I think, to this day, it's lasted the test of time and people still connect to it. Even me, I'm only 28 years old, and I listen to Voodoo Child and All Along the Watchtower, Hey Joe. I listen to that in the camper all night, so I'm excited to hear what you guys come up with.
Awesome, man. So it sounds like we have our genre, a little bit of 70s rock and roll, Jimi Hendrix specifically. And then as far as like the theme would be, love, peace, and caring and selflessness, helping others, and kind of like one world, one community. We have borders to divide our countries, but we're all in this big rock together, and we got to start treating each other like family and like brothers and sisters because, well, it made a difference in the 70s. Why can't it make a difference now? We need that again. So, but it's we're just a little bit past an hour now. I think that maybe we should sign off and get to work, guys.
I think so.
It's a very
fun conversation,
task, I must say, but yeah.
Sorry. I appreciate you guys having me.
Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
We'll get started so much, and we'll reconvene when the song's done. See ya.
See you guys.
All right. See you guys.
Bye.
All right, guys, we're back for part 2 of the episode. So, Jake, did you get a chance to see the video and listen to the song?
Man, I really thought it kind of caught the idea that I was going for. My biggest thing was I kind of just wanted to challenge you guys to see what you guys could come up with. And
well done, sir. Well done.
Yeah, I felt like throwing it old school,
complete.
man. Yeah, throwing it kind of old school to Hendrix would be a pretty unique challenge, and I'm obviously a fan, like I said. But yeah, I mean, I think you guys did an awesome job. It caught like the essence of the sound and the lyrics that I kind of thought that I was, expecting, but definitely kind of put your own little twist on it. The video is just awesome, man. So yeah, I really enjoyed it.
So when I was writing the lyrics, I was kind of picturing something like, and me and Kyle had talked about it, like Sam and Dean from Supernatural, where they're constantly on the move, going from town to town. They do something great. They help, they save a life, and then they just, don't thank us. Just keep that positivity going and keep it moving. And like Mandalorian, he comes into a town, runs into trouble, fixes everything, and then on to the next town, And that's kind of how I was thinking it. I was approaching the story from like an old Western style.
It was kind of like a pay it forward tribute in my mind too.
Exactly.
When I was listening back to you're going to keep doing what you can, whether it's a lifetime or whatever, and then just keep paying it forward from person to person, and making whatever the world a better place, or this person's life better, who then translates that to another.
I actually I kind of thought of like the feeling I got was like an anti-Rambo. So like this outsider coming into this town, and instead of causing problems, he just leaves it better than he found it.
Oh my gosh!
Hey, but still, PTSD is a part of it.
Yeah.
Now we could have gone down the video path of the anti-Rambo. I wish we had that idea before.
What's Rambo backwards?
Oberer.
Obmar.
Obmar. Obmar sounds like a Star Wars character.
Yeah.
Like
Omar is a very similar Rambo character, so I don't think we can use that from The Wire. Although actually, no, he was like a really good, one of the best characters, and tried to like help society. Anybody familiar with The Wire? Like that was just such an amazing.
I never watched that.
Oh my gosh! Omar coming to town with his shotgun, walking through the streets. I mean, he would save the kids and everything
like
in that like local area. He was like their Batman in a way, but real life Batman. And he definitely killed people, but
so in the song, I kind of wanted each part of the verse. Each verse has like two sections to it. I wanted each to kind of represent like. Maybe it's a physical struggle or emotional struggle, depression, addiction. That's like the first two verses. The second one is more, intellectual limitations and stuff like that. And we're trying to create like a cool Jimmy Hendrix song. So you don't want to go too far into like the melancholy. You don't want to be sad. You gotta make it sound cool. Something that has a good, you can listen to the song and it kind of hypes you up, kind of thing.
I know like it honestly, it blows my mind just like the level of creativity you all have. After we were done with the first part, Carrie within like, I think it was like 45 minutes sends me lyrics and he's like, hey man, that's kind of what I'm thinking. And I was just like in awe of, I texted him, and I'm like, is this just like, do you feel like you're a radio station and like, do you have like an antenna and it just comes to you? Because it's like exactly the essence of, I felt like our whole conversation, it obviously went a couple different directions, towards the end especially, but that he caught the essence of it. And I think whenever I first read the lyrics, in my head, I had it, I kind of imagined it sounding a little differently, kind of more towards like what Catapult sounded like. But then I'm like, oh wait, no, we're gonna do like Jimi Hendrix, and it's cool because you like you said, Carrie, like it's very listenable. It's a groove, it's a little groovy. When you read the lyrics, man, like I think it does an awesome job of just like we said, you don't have to thank me. You don't have to. I don't want any of that. I don't want anything. I just want other people to like you said too, Bo, just pay it forward. I'm not. My goal in all this, I'm not doing this necessarily for myself. I want to, spread that message of, we need to help each other. And, it's a very small part of the, many reasons that I, going to school for this and why I got into this field. But yeah, it's amazing how you caught the essence of, what I was thinking, because we didn't even necessarily talk about a lot of the things that have been on my mind since I started, but you somehow like, got into my head, and that is the idea. I don't want anything from this. I don't want people to, I don't want like people to go, oh, you're such a great person. Like, that's not what I'm doing this for. I'm doing this because I'm hoping that, potentially hearing what I did and leaving, we kind of touched on it, leaving a job that for my age was pretty good job, and then choosing to go, choose a path that's focused around helping other people. I hope that just like maybe inspires, I hope that continues, and like you said, it passes to other people. 'Cause we need more of that, in my opinion. So yeah, it was just again, to kind of wrap up what I'm saying. It blew my mind how you just caught how I've been feeling and what I've been thinking for the year and a half that I've been doing this, and caught it in a 3-minute or so song. It's crazy.
If I had to wrap the song
Yeah, man.
up and like describe it with 3 words, I would describe it as selfless. Like I kind of touched on that in the first part, and the humility and humble, or humbleness. Is that even a word? I don't know if that's a word, but just
Word
being
now.
humble. It is now, yeah. Because the lyrics, the lyrics were, like you said, all about helping people. Like this guy coming to this town and making a difference, but then he just leaves and he doesn't ask for anything back. But he does say, like, you can call me a friend. Like you can call me a friend, and that's so special because, like in the world of skydiving, we make really close friends, and then we don't see them for a very long time. And we're okay with that because we understand the nature of that relationship. And so that kind of touched me, because you're going to spend a lot of time, very close, intimate time with people, get to know them on a very personal level, and then you're just going to be gone out of their lives potentially forever. And so it's like a very special thing where you get a very close relationship with somebody, and then you send them off on their next chapter of their life, and then you go on your next chapter. And so that's kind of the part that hit me, that I kind of relate to, that I really liked.
Yeah, goosebumps just talking about it, man. It's awesome. I love it. Like it's just again, I'm hoping that in those interactions and through helping those people, that potentially a little bit of like my enthusiasm, my love for helping people, my passion for what I'm doing. I hope I think that's one of the things I really hope I spread to other people, because again, that's something that I feel like, especially nowadays, you see people that don't have that level of fulfilledness, and that's probably not a word either. And that
Fulfillment.
fulfillment. Yeah. Thank you. Fulfillment. I'm the one in school too, right?
I'm the
I feel like
lyricist, so I got no excuse.
You know the words.
Yeah.
I've totally made up words and songs, though.
Yeah. But yeah, I just hope that's one of the things that throughout my journey, for the rest of my life, I hope that's something that I can extend to people, who can extend it to more people, who because that's the goal. I'm just one person, but if I can impact, let's say 50 people, those 50 people can impact 10, 12 their circle, and then that I hope will continue to just grow exponentially, to kind of send this positive message of just helping people in love and caring for one another.
Keep it moving along.
Yeah.
Yep.
One of my favorite lyrics in the song, and it actually came like a little bit closer towards like recording vocals, because I updated some of the lyrics that I initially sent you, but it's I'm an angel sent and I'm hell bent. I just for some reason I like that line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I was curious about was, kind of the process for the music too, because, we all know Carrie, spits out lyrics like, just a waterfall,
like a printer,
like Woof from The Office. Like it's just
Yeah, lyrics come out fluent, but my conversationally I'm awkward. Makes no sense.
But so one thing I found really cool about this one is so the first piece of music that I heard, and again, always reading the lyrics, kind of like you, Jake. I'm like, okay, where's he gonna go? Like, because I'm waiting for either Carrie or Kyle to send like something instrumentally, so that I can get an idea for what the beat's going to be, what the percussion is going to be for that foundation of the song. So I'm like, okay, where's he going with this? Obviously, it's going to be a Hendrix vibe, but you're trying to like mesh that with the lyrics and how the verses fall in and where the chorus is. And then Kyle, you sent a bass intro. That was literally the first piece of music I think I heard. And I'm curious, Carrie, maybe you can delve into like your process of, did you have something in mind already, or did you kind of use that from Kyle, that intro?
No, that was all Carrie.
Oh, that was
so.
I thought,
yeah, after we got off of the first part, I called Jake and we talked for a little bit, and then I called Carrie, and he was already sitting down on guitar. Excuse me. And so he just had me on speakerphone or going through his microphone, or I'm not sure, but he was playing guitar and he was letting me hear it. And obviously I just heard it for the first time and I was like, oh man, that sounds super cool. I love that little riff, which is like that main part. Yeah. And then he recorded something really quickly and sent it to me. And then I thought, man, okay, I can totally create an intro for this, because for the guitars to come in seemed a little abrupt and awkward. So I just came up with that distorted MIDI, like really MIDI sounding bass, like mids. And then I sent that, and then it wasn't until I sat down to actually track the bass that I put the wah pedal on there, and then I actually did a stereo, like it was like a 45 split, left and right, of the wah on one side, and then like just like a flat distorted bass on the other side to give it some stereo imaging. And then that was Carrie's riff. Like he came up with that.
So I still love the process of like how quickly that unfolds though. So regardless of the song or scenario, like I kind of relate it to these electrical sparks that every time you hear that music for the first time, and already your brain is just jumping to, oh my gosh, like I hear this little thing here that I could add to it, or use this tone, or add this effect to it. This is going to bring it out. And it's a bunch of like hundreds of those little moments that just those sparks come out. And then in the end, you come to, okay, here's the song. Here's where the sound came from. It started with this. Then Kyle heard this, and then he transitioned to that stereo imaging and the effects on the bass, and bringing that like really beefy tone to it with the wah and everything, and then kind of just culminates in the end, like into this final song. It's just, I love that process. And
I find it's interesting because it works very much like biological evolution. Like it starts off with this very basic thing, and then except it's much more, it works much more quickly. And then over a period of for us a couple of days, we started with the first recording, and then we listened to it not even when it was fully fleshed out, just like a very basic version of what we had midway through the process. And it's just so much. It's crazy how quickly it comes together with us just bouncing off of each other.
Is this day 7 again?
This is
day 7.
So we've done 3 songs, 3 music videos, 3 podcasts, and
January 18th,
5 weeks.
January 18th was the first day we filmed.
The original idea was to do one of these a month, and we were just so excited after the first one. We're like, okay, well, we did that one, so let's go ahead and do the next one.
Dude, I get so inspired. I could literally make a song a day if I had the time, and that was my life. I could easily do this all day, because you hit that inspiration, and it just drives you. Like I can't remember anything I did all this week except for working and thinking about this song. And like Kyle said, like my process, I sat on acoustic guitar, came up with a riff. I recorded a little video snippet so that when I woke up the next day and went to work,
oh, that's right,
I could play it over and over and start building something in my head. But what I did is I came up with the guitar part, and I wrote lyrics completely independent. And then I squished them all together because I was listening to Hendrix, and a lot of his stuff is just like, it has like this I don't know, like this essence to it where he's just kind of singing on certain parts. It's got a lot of blues, and he just kind of he's not really concerned with syllables fitting and stuff. So it's a lot more looser of
it's like a jazz rock.
Yeah. It's very loose, very much improv based. jazz is a lot of improv. And when I finally went to do guitars, I already had like the main riff, and then all the solo stuff was just me improvising. And of course, when we went to do the video, I had to relearn everything. Like this is the first time I've really had to actually act like I know what I'm playing. And you'll see, like in the video, I'm not nailing it, but I'm coming close.
100%.
But it took me like
100%.
5 times to memorize the solos and stuff that I did, because it was all in the moment. And then I had to go back and act like I knew what I did. And I have no freaking idea what I did.
Same.
That's just my
Same
fingers
here.
moving,
And this, especially on the drums, like, it's such a free flowing song that, there's little accents and things here and there. And, we've only played, again, this is day 7. We haven't played this song more than a handful of times. And I probably played the song more times doing the video than I did just getting it recorded, just, you just play through it and you're like, okay, well, there's that. It sounds pretty good.
Yeah, Bo, you brought your A game for sure, man. That video, the drums,
so
the
good.
kaleidoscope thing with the snare.
Oh my God. Yeah.
That's my favorite, man.
So
did you,
I got
did you
that
move
idea.
your kit in front of the projector?
Yeah.
The projector
Oh, wow.
screen.
That's
So
what I thought.
I wanted to get like a little bit of a backdrop there, and it's not a green screen or anything, so you still get shadows and the lighting and
looked cool,
whatnot.
man.
But it looks like a live performance. That's what's cool about it.
Yeah. I mean, there was a couple of shots that I forgot to turn my computer monitor off next to the
I didn't even
next to the
notice.
projector screen.
Yeah, no, I didn't notice either.
But
I remember when I watched the video for the first time, you said uploading now. I literally sat there and watched. I kept refreshing my browser because I wanted to see your video. So because you sent us that picture at first.
Oh
And
yeah,
I think you posted it too, a couple of those pictures, and I was so like excited about it. I sat there refreshing my drive, the Google Drive, and so that when it was ready, I was like, I downloaded that son of a gun like right away, and I watched it. And Jen and I watched it together, and she loved it, man. She absolutely loved it, and
that's awesome.
I actually remember we were just talking about how we couldn't remember the song when we had to do the video part. Same for me. I punched in a bunch of stuff because I had some period of time where I wasn't actually going to be, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. So I punched in between the break where you do your solo part and the guitar. You guys are trading off. So I kind of punched in on that part, but I didn't remember what I did. I just kind of improvised it. And so I had to like learn my own song like it was a cover to film it.
The funny part for me is that the solo part, it was the most memorable for me to replay during the video. It's still not perfect when I was doing it, but the other parts were I was just winging it throughout the entire, all the verses and everything in different accents. So I'm hitting the snare in some spots that are just like not even there on the video or were there on the video and they weren't in the recording. It's like, I'm trying to mesh everything. And Beth was doing the video recording, walking around the kit.
She did a great job.
As I was playing.
Yeah, she did.
And, she's just getting like all kinds of different cool shots. And so I, played it a bunch of times just to get those different takes and the different angles, which was a lot of fun. But it's like going back to, we've all got our day jobs. We've all got, this is a weekend, and we, based on a concept that came to fruition on a week ago, nothing planned or anything like that.
Yep.
I'm sure that there's so many things that each of us can talk for days about what we would do if we were getting paid for this. I mean, take a day, go to a studio, get the right shots. I mean, we could spend a day just doing the video alone. But I literally put the video together immediately after finishing the shoot, like in a couple hours. So it's like we're trying to do this with a gut reaction to everything, really. Like
it's guerrilla filmmaking. It's on the spot. It's our first, like we talked about in episode 1. It's our first instinct as musicians and songwriters. That's what we're putting out there.
Yep, that's true. We don't have time to refine it. We don't have time to perfect it. We've been giving ourselves about a week, and that could be plus or minus a few days here and there, depending on how the project goes in the future. But I think that us forcing ourselves into this time frame is actually creating a situation where our creativity is really like flowing, and we're just kind of it's like I remember I mentioned one time that like an artist just painting something in a few minutes versus an artist has spent like weeks painting an image. like they both have their merit, of course, and one might look a little bit better quality than the other. That they took a long time to do it, but it's pure creativity, and we're just putting out there what we feel.
Well, on that note, let's let everybody hear the song.
Sounds good. All right, this is Passerby.
See, I clear this path for you. We're going the same way. Face me, apprehender, tip me to my grave. I'm an angel sent and I'm helping to help you soothe that crave. And when it comes to an end, don't fake me, just pass it around and again. Yes, you can call me a friend, but don't look back on me to make your amends. Keep it moving along, keep it moving alright. Keep it moving along, I'm just a passerby. Break these hesitations, watch me stand against. I may not walk on water yet, but I can knock some sense. Embrace my limitations, fault me for my missing page. Assault me for my simple mind, and watch me free my cage. And when it comes to an end, don't thank me, just pass it around and again. Yes, you can call me a friend, don't look back on me to make your amends. Just keep it moving.
I dig the song, man. It's fun. I listened to all three of them today just to see like if we put everything like a compilation album, and they all sound completely different, but there's also like a cohesion there that just came from, the three of us just doing our thing. But it's got a weird, it's a weird vibe, but it all kind of meshes together.
Yeah, 100%.
I love the like you said, they all sound different, and I love that we were able to produce things that were so different, from like a really poppy rock song, like a what's it called, the American Authors type stuff, to this contemporary Christian worship / U2 Coldplay rock music, to all the way back to the 60s and 70s rock music. And I feel like we really were able to bring in that vibe of the old sound, like especially for this one, just to bring in that sound, but also make it sound modern at the same time, And I think we really did a service to the song. And Bo, your drums, the way you did the miking technique was just dead on. As soon as I heard your drums, I was like, that's exactly it. That's exactly the sound that I was picturing when I was picturing the song in my head. So, kudos to you, man.
Yeah, and that was Carrie definitely was like, hey, let's go with this method, and it's the Glenn Johns miking method. And I actually there'll be probably a little behind the scenes video for this particular episode that you can check out in more detail, but essentially it's using a minimal miking technique that they used in the 60s and
most
the
popular
70s
with
and whatnot.
Led Zeppelin, John
Led
Bonham.
Zeppelin, The Who, the Beatles used it. I mean, it's taking basically 3 mics to capture the kit sound, because they only had so many inputs
8-track.
on 8-track.
A lot of
basically,
times they were trying to record a full band on 8-track, so 3 went to the drums.
Yeah,
That's all they could spare.
Especially with all like the vocal heavy choruses and harmonizing and whatnot with a lot of the groups those days. A lot of it's taken up by the vocals alone. So then you've only got so much for drums, and then you've got one left for guitar, one left for bass, and there you go.
And we managed to, I think we probably used about 40 channels.
There's not too much low end. There's not too much high end, because, in that older sounding style, everything was very much high and low cut.
Mm-hmm.
You just basically had the range between like maybe 300 and 10,000.
Yeah, you're going for perceived sound at that point.
Yeah.
And,
so
just trying to make sure that whatever you're capturing is pretty much almost already there, because you're not going to be able to do too much in the aftermath of it.
Well,
Cool.
You got the essence for sure.
Yeah, great. Definitely sounded like
happy accident, I guess.
Well, now
Jake,
we're in the conundrum of like, what do we do next after this one?
Yeah, right. But yeah, Jake, man, you gave us something inspiring for sure. It wasn't a dull story whatsoever, and we took it and we turned it as I think personally this was my favorite one so far. And we keep making the joke that each time we do this, like when we first started the first episode, we're just like, well, let's just record it and let's see what happens. And if it turns out to be crap, then we won't do it. But we were happy with it. And then the second time we're like, oh yeah, man, this is how we're going to top this one. And then this time we totally said it. We're like, how are we supposed to top this? So you challenged us, you inspired us, and we're excited to see how things work out for you, and hopefully we all experience success out of our endeavors.
Yeah, I think I'm thankful you guys had me on. I mean, it was obviously like super fun, super cool to like kind of talk a little bit with you guys about all the different things. And again, like I'm not a very creative person, so to see like what you guys are all able to do in such a short period of time, like I've been so preoccupied recently with, I was telling Carrie this the other day, like you guys have been sending different clips of sound that you guys have been working on and different things here and there, but I've been so preoccupied. I had a midterm last week that I didn't even get a chance to really listen to it till Carrie showed me. What was it, yesterday, Carrie?
Yeah,
the full thing was
song.
completely done. So, and I enjoyed it that way, because I thought it was neat to not see the progression, just see the end product. Because because for me, again, not being a very creative person, if I was to listen at the progression, like my mind would go somewhere else compared to where you guys are heading, if that makes sense. And yeah, again, it's what you guys do, man. It's awesome. I mean, it inspires me to want to, be more creative. And, I've tried numerous times to pick up an instrument. I'm instrumentally not very good. Yeah, challenged.
Instrumentally challenged. You're clearly very passionate about it. And you take it very seriously, and you work your ass off, man. And I think that alone should inspire people.
And yeah, your passion is so strong that it carried us through the production of a song and a video. So we thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I really enjoyed the conversation, the stories, and obviously the most fun is getting to play music and really have something that is a foundation behind it too, that'll live on for years to come.
Yeah,
yeah, for sure.
I was just talking to.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was
just saying thank you again.
That's that
Go ahead, Kyle.
Canadian time travel that we're doing.
Yeah. I'm 1,500 miles away. The delay's a little rough. I was just telling Jen today how Carrie, Bo, and I had the band together, but I found it kind of interesting that lately, even though I've been in Canada, I've been enjoying this so much, and almost more than just being in the band. Because in the band, it was just like repetitive. It was, this week we're going to work on these songs, and then we'll try to book a show, and then we'll practice these songs before the show, and then play the show. And it was just constantly on repeat. And although I loved doing that, I really enjoyed it, and it was very rewarding. It can't even touch what we're doing. I enjoy this so much more, and it's just because everything's different, everything is challenging, and everything it requires us to create. And I love doing covers as well. And I love doing songs that are inspired by other bands or artists, but to be able to create it from scratch and put your mark on it is so much more rewarding. It's just different. And I've really, really been enjoying it. And speaking of other videos, you said you had a behind the scenes video. I'm going to be getting another room upstairs. We're making a little transition with our rooms. And I'm going to get an office room, and I'm going to shoot a little video on my setup and how I'm going to paint one of the walls green for green screen and have a full setup. So I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and just like having the challenge from another person, each time we do this, it creates another layer of complexity to it, but another layer of fun as well, because we're doing stuff that. Again, when we were getting together on a weekly basis and practicing, we're practicing the same songs and the same genres and so on. But now we're like, okay, we're going to go from
out of our comfort zone,
like a poppy song to a Hendrix experience. And granted, we did a little bit of that with the covers that we did, but not to that extent.
Well, another thing I've been noticing is it keeps our audience fresh too, because every guest has 5 or 10 friends are going to check it out and then hopefully spread it from there. And, we do need to get a little bit better at trying to get people to subscribe and follow us. And, we do release just the music video, so you don't have to listen to the podcast, but, we try to get as many followers as we can to see if people appreciate what we're doing.
Yeah.
I've legitimately been telling everybody, because and this isn't just because I'm your guys' cousin, but the whole premise of this show it's something I've never heard of. I'm sure there's other things kind of similar out there, but the idea that you guys have to interview people and then challenge yourselves to write a song and record a music video in a week. I mean, that's ridiculous. And I think it's honestly ridiculous to me. Again, I'm not creative. I can't perceive this stuff.
We're like the South Park for songwriters.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And I know for me, just from listening to the previous episodes and listening to the songs, there's a sense of organic. It feels so organic because, like you guys said, you don't have time to fine tune and refine the sound and the lyrics. You kind of have a time crunch. So I think it puts out something that you guys it comes from an organic place. So it feels very genuine. I think Carrie talked about it on the last episode that, Catapult, I'm not a super emotional person, but Catapult got me, I teared up, man. I teared up and got chills, and I don't really react to that towards music, very often. And that song it's a song that like I'll be playing forever. This song will be a song I'll be playing forever. I love what you guys are doing, and it's just a testimony to how creative you all are, and the idea behind the show is such a again an organic and a powerful one.
Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Yeah, I can't wait to do more. I can't wait for the next guest. I can't wait to do this again, man. This is so much fun and so rewarding, and I love being able to put somebody's story or their own motivations or inspirations, their fears, their desires, all of that into a song, and then gifting it to them, saying, "Here, like here's what we've done." And whether they're a part of it or not, they are, because they helped us write this song. They gave us the inspiration. They gave us the story. And that means so much. So we're able to take your story and give it back to you in this format so that you can keep it forever. And that's totally the point. That's so that, 30, 40 years from now, you'll be able to listen to it like, oh yeah, man, I remember that journey. And it was encapsulated as like a time capsule into a song. So.
Yeah. And again, just kind of keep on that thread. I don't have the ability to do that. I don't have the ability to, music's so powerful in that way that it captures, time periods, it captures attitudes, moods, journeys, like you kind of said. And I don't have that ability. So I feel so thankful that, again, I was like a part of this. And obviously I love just talking to you guys. I had an awesome time just hanging out and talking. But to know like, that I inspired, I helped create, I felt like I helped create, a song, which is something that I never thought I'd be able to do. So it's an awesome, awesome thing. So thank you guys.
You're the mother of the song. We just delivered it for you. Because the song was born. You were the mother.
So we're like the midwives or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Your 7 days of labor.
Does that make the umbilical cord like an XLR or something?
Oh, gosh.
Ethernet.
Yeah.
Well, but yeah, man, we're about 36 minutes into the second part. So I think we could probably wrap this up. And Jake, thanks again, man. We really appreciate you coming on. We had a lot of fun, man. So much fun. It was a blast, and I can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, I keep saying that this was this was a fun one, but this was really a fun one, and for just being able to like sit behind a kit and just jam, like that was just so cool to do, because usually you're very specific with what your approach is, but this one was like kind of it was challenging, but also in like a very expressive way where you could just kind of get lost in the music, and that was a lot of fun to do. And just to kind of harp back on getting followers and whatnot, please let us know, if you're watching, listening to this, let us know what you guys want to see and hear.
Sure.
We want to add like different content for you and keep building this. That again, this is episode 3, so we're trying to do this better and better each time. So let us know, whether it's in comments or just we just appreciate it, and we want to do.
We're not the writers of this podcast, right? We're just the purveyors of the podcast. So anybody who has comments, like you said, let us know what you want to hear, what you want to see, because that you guys who listen and watch this podcast are the ones that are writing the story.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, until next time.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, thanks.
Peace.
All right. See ya.
See you guys.
Yep.
Take a chance on you. I'm in the middle with enough to lose. This joke of a life is all